What's poppin', everybody? Welcome to Tom and Joey Entertainment, a.k.a. TJENT. This is Real Talk with Tom and Joey, Game of Thrones edition for Season 7, Episode 6, the semi-final finale of Game of Thrones. Season 7, what is the name of this episode?
Dragon's
Beyond
Blood.
the Wall.
Dragon's Blood.
Dragon's Blood Part 3. Beyond the Wall is the official name. I remember that now. And joining me as always, well, first, I'm one of your hosts, Joey Prokes, in case you forgot who I was. But joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tom Hazelwood.
Dude.
Dude.
I'm good.
Any just first word that comes to your head when you think of Beyond the Wall?
Fuck yes.
Hyphenated?
No. Separated their own exclamation points. Exclamation points.
So
it's fuck yes.
So they're their own one-word answers.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Mine would be how, and we'll get into that a little later.
Okay.
So without further ado, let's swan dive. Actually, let me first describe the format. If you're new here, for some reason you're new here for this episode 6, although at this point with our channel, most of you are going to be new here. So how this is going to work, we're going to dive in scene by scene and give our general reactions, and then we're going to go to some fan reactions. And Tom, if a fan wants to get in on our now season finale show, our last episode, how would they do so?
They go to patreon.com/TJENT and you can post in. I mean, this is the last one.
Yes.
So, I mean, the special will no longer run after that. But no matter what tier you are, you can make your post and we will react to it.
We will react to your reactions and you'll get yourself on the show. So without further ado, and then we go into our Game of Thrones Season 7 power rankings as well. So without further ado, let's swan dive into this. So we first start out with the Suicide Squad marching. Well, they had that like pan over with the camera over Daenerys's like council table, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you think there's any symbolism behind that? The only thing I could think of was like the fire in the background. Maybe it was like a foreshadowing for later in the episode.
Maybe I didn't opening an episode. I don't know. I didn't think much to it.
I guess it was just weird. And then it's more so character development and plot building when it comes to these like check-ins almost with the Suicide Squad on their march until they get into the battle, obviously.
That's true.
But I just had a few quotes here that I loved from specifically Tormund.
I was going to say.
When he was talking to Gendry about how to stay warm, he says, walking's good, fighting's better, fucking's best. That was a hilarious quote. And then
we have to make do.
Yeah. And then actually more seriously, when Tormund shows his leadership, when he's talking to Jon about, because he asks Jon about Daenerys, and then Jon says Daenerys is only support us if I bend the knee. And then Tormund says the king beyond the wall, talking about Mance Rayder, never bent the knee. How many of his people died for his pride? And I put in all caps, baller status.
Yeah, so that was a good shout.
Yeah.
Because later in the episode, he does bend the knee.
Yeah, especially because at the time of like the situation that they were talking about, Mance Rayder that was his big thing, that his people would look down on him.
Right.
But then his second in command, Tormund, looked down at the decision to not bend the knee.
Right.
Because it ended up suffering. So then we go to Jon and Jorah specifically, and nothing really, I guess, significance came out of this scene except soon as it started.
I was so pissed.
Yeah, when Jon was talking about giving Longclaw up, I was like,
I get it.
You were an idiot.
I get it, though.
Yeah.
That was an admirable thing to do.
Yeah.
But I'm glad, again, Jorah's win me over a little bit.
Yeah.
That was a dope scene where, you know what, Jon gives you a sword, and he does have a point. It is kind of his.
Yeah.
And he just goes, no.
No.
This was given to you.
It's yours.
Pretty cool.
And then everyone watching this episode, just a collective sigh of relief when Jorah was like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
You take it. And then just end the scene. It was okay.
Yeah.
No more possibility of Jon giving up Longclaw.
Right, yeah.
So then we go to Winterfell, where Arya confronts Sansa about the Raven's message that she acquired last episode. And just when she says killed by the Lannisters, because initially they don't act like the scene is going to like have Arya tell Sansa that she read the message.
Right.
But then she says, talking about Ned Stark, killed by the Lannisters, and then she has a pause, and then with your help. And then Sansa had a good quote with, do you know how happy Cersei would be right now if she saw us fighting? And it just goes back to this theme that I don't know why. Like, Arya used to be one of my favorite characters, and she seems to just be so like naive and
well, she just wants revenge. She just wants everyone that screwed her over dead.
I guess in the like outside characters of Winterfell but she almost seems like Sansa's been a part of her list since the beginning. I mean, she's just like, she's acting like,
Well, she's never like Sansa.
yeah, but that was more, I mean, up until the Joffrey incident with Nymeria, it seemed like it was more just a sister confrontation, and not
Yeah,
more like
but-
serious, like, you're on my list, I'm going to put a knife through your head.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, they never got along to begin with. They're not gonna all of a sudden get buddy now.
Yeah,
She's just taking it up a notch.
I guess. But it just seems like she reads the Raven's message and then just gets this gigantic assumption that that's what Sansa's all about. And yet Sansa's provided evidence for her to think otherwise. Especially in that meeting last episode, how she backed Jon. Yeah, they didn't talk shit about Jon, and then she didn't put him on the chopping block right away, but that's not going to do anything.
But she just, I mean, it doesn't matter what she's done now. It's what she did.
Yeah, I guess. But that's what I'm saying. It's just that's the problem with
Yeah.
what Arya is doing. She's
Yeah.
just getting hung up on shit that does not
I mean, they
matter.
both have reasons to feel the ways that they do. Because I got pissed at Sansa in that scene because she kept on making it sound like Arya hasn't gone through anything and Sansa has
true.
gone through everything, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you both just need to realize that you both went through some serious shit because Sansa was pampered to shit in
Yeah.
King's Landing.
She might have
And-
been captive, quote unquote, but she was being
but she had a
treated well.
good, yeah, and she was married to two Lannisters,
Mhm.
two separate Lannisters. So from Arya's perspective, she got the shit kicked out of her every day.
Blind.
She had to, well, and that was after the fact that she had to pretend to be a boy forever, find her own way. She was never given the opportunity to have this royal life, and
Yeah.
Sansa always wanted it. So she comes back, and all of a sudden she's the Lady of Winterfell, and she's going, oh yeah, this suits you so well because this is how you always acted. This is how you always were.
Yeah.
So I don't know. From a spectator's point, it seems like Arya's fucking up bad, but from her perspective, I can understand why she was so pissed.
Yeah, I guess my thing would just be I would want Arya to approach it in more of a, like, not just, like I said before, with an assumption type attitude where go in and talk to her about it and what the situation was
Yeah.
rather than just read the message and say, oh,
And
you were
she
teaming
acts-
up with the
And she
Lannisters.
just acts really weird about the whole thing. Like threatening your own family is just kind of a weird move.
Yeah,
but-
exactly. So then we go back to the Suicide Squad, and then this is kind of a smaller scene, but Tormund and the Hound have a kind of a bonding moment here where Tormund confesses love for Brienne, and then there's not really symbolism maybe, but I thought it was just kind of funny.
Yeah, and he wants to have babies with her.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Those
I mean,
little fuckers would conquer the world.
everyone wants Danny and John to get together, but even more people want
Tormund and
Brienne
Brienne.
to
Yeah.
get together.
And then that's why, like, I didn't think he was going to die after last episode when they set up this episode because he mentioned Brienne.
Right.
And they've always, like, they've hinted at that being a relationship, or at least on Tormund's end.
Right.
And they never, like, nothing came to fruition with that. So it's like, you can't just cut that off.
Yeah.
Or maybe in Game of Thrones, you can. So then he goes to stay in the same setting. And then you go in Jon and Beric having a conversation. And then that super badass quote, death is the enemy, the first enemy and the last. Then he says the enemy always wins and we still need to fight him.
Yeah.
Beric's voice
It's
is
awesome.
so dope.
Yeah, yeah.
And especially when he's saying badass quotes like this.
Yeah. He's got a great narrator's voice.
Yeah.
You can tell he's died 6 times.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think? Like, because when they were fighting with I thought, were you disappointed at all with how, because that was the first time you saw the fire swords in action, right?
Yeah, that I can. Well, I mean, there's other. I think they've happened before, but
Yeah.
just him, just sheathing it.
Yeah, that's super badass. But I don't know, like, it just seemed like they weren't as effective as I thought, because especially when they were fighting the bear, it almost seemed like it didn't really, like, it set him on fire, and it's just like you almost have to touch him to set him
Yeah.
on fire, but then it didn't seem like it was, I don't know, maybe I just thought it was going to be way more badass because of how more badass looking it was.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to get at.
No,
So.
well, I was just, I don't know, during the fighting scenes, they, like, showed it, and it wasn't like he had to, like, that was a later scene, we'll get to that. So then they go back to Dragonstone, and it's with Daenerys and Tyrion have a conversation, and Tyrion's talking to Daenerys about how the previous men that have gone out and got themselves killed, according to Daenerys, about outdoing each other. And then he talks about Jon specifically having affection for Daenerys, and he says, because Daenerys denies it, and then he says, I suppose he just stares at you in hopes for a successful military alliance. And then Dany just gets this look on her face, just like a teenage girl, just,
I don't know.
maybe he likes me. I don't know. And I was laughing so hard for such a serious situation like that. I was just dying because that was just the exact expression that she had on her face. But then Daenerys talks about the final meeting with Cersei, and then she talks about any traps are incoming. So do you think that, I mean, obviously if you've watched the preview, spoilers, 2 seconds. Okay, so if you haven't watched the preview, then it shows that the meeting is going down.
Yeah.
So do you think that either side will lay any traps? Because she talks about it, and it's brought up.
I
Obviously,
don't
if
know.
anybody's going to set a trap, it's going to be Cersei.
I mean, I think both would.
Yeah, just in case.
I definitely think that Dany's going in there with a plus plan.
Yeah.
If things go south. The thing is, if things go south, Dany can hop on a dragon and leave. Cersei cannot.
No.
So
Daenerys has a dragon,
Yeah.
which will be right next to
Well,
her
two.
in case. Oh, yeah.
So,
I just meant
yeah.
riding in on one.
yeah, so I don't know. And the fact that Cersei's folding a little bit kind of makes me believe that she understands that she can't set a trap because nothing she has will beat them.
Yeah,
yet.
especially, if you watch the preview when it shows the Dothraki.
Finally, we get the Unsullied back.
Yeah, exactly. So they just showed that they're completely okay, which is
Yeah.
awesome. But they show both armies, and then obviously she has 2 dragons. So it's so weird saying
Yeah.
2. It's so hard saying 2.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I think that, and they didn't show Daenerys in the preview as one of the attendees to the meeting, but that's why I think that, well, you think that she might not go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just didn't see her in the preview, so I
Right.
don't know. But
I think that she's going to ride Dragonin and just land right in the fucking
well, she
middle.
could, but I mean, in the preview, whether they show her with him or not, like they could have just showed her coming in,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they didn't.
And I think that from Dany's perspective, I think that would actually be a good move because obviously it's a power move,
Yeah.
but it would probably be a hostile move. But
no.
with someone like Cersei, maybe you have to do that to establish like an alpha male
and
almost
she might
presence.
have to because they still have to drop that body in.
Oh, yeah.
So they probably strap up.
Don't want to risk anything. So
Well,
maybe, she drops in and then they just drop her right in the middle.
Yeah. That makes sense.
That would make sense, yeah. Yeah, you're
I don't know.
probably right.
They just didn't show either of those two things, so I mean, I don't know. They're both gonna be calculated and they're both gonna prepare for the worst, but I don't think that meeting is gonna be the episode 9 Game of Thrones gut check.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna come outside of that scene.
Outside of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just
Because I don't think that, like, you think that's going to be the whole episode. I don't think it's going to be the whole episode.
what if the big death that everybody thinks that comes in episode 9 was one of the dragons? Like, granted, that's not a big character because it's not even technically a character.
You
It's all
sweet
CGI.
summer child.
Yeah, but it's like,
Do you remember? Let's backtrack through every season's big death.
well, yeah, but there's never been a Night King that took over a dragon. So it's like maybe they're trying to not have a death because they're trying to keep
I'm just
the
trying to
sides
help
even.
you out, man, because it's coming.
Yeah, no, I know it is. I'm just trying to get the other side here because I don't know. I think that they eventually end.
Dragon is not that big of a deal
How is the dragon not that big of a deal?
because it's not a huge character.
Well, it's not a huge character.
Dragon,
but it's
the
a huge
dragon
piece.
dying is not nearly as big of a deal as Ned was, the Red Wedding was, the Purple Wedding was. Everyone, Ramsay.
See, I disagree. Because Dragon has been in since the beginning. You finally get it in battle, and let alone one dies, and then one is turned
But
into a White Walker.
did you ever expect all 3 dragons to live?
I mean, I don't.
Yes or
can't-
no?
Well, I can't know.
Okay.
I mean, but you
So
can't
did you
expect anything.
So when you were at the beginning of the show, did you expect Ned to die?
I mean, no. But the
Did
show
you
just
expect
started.
the Red Wedding to happen?
I didn't expect the
That's my
dragons
point,
to
but
die
that-
at the hands of the Night King.
But you expected one to die. That's my point.
I guess, but I don't know. I think the dragons dying was definitely one of the more bigger scenes
Awesome
on.
deaths.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Just the way they did it, it was kind of weird, but nonetheless, I think in terms of the impact it has on the show itself, it's one of the bigger character
It
deaths.
might not be though.
I mean, the Night King going from a horse to a full-blown dragon seems
There's
like a
still
pretty
2 others
big-
though.
Yeah, but
2 on 1. That's all I'm saying is
instead of 3 on 0, so it's a pretty big shift.
right, but I mean we don't know the kind of power that a White Walker dragon has compared to a regular one. We don't know yet. We'll find out.
I guess. All right.
I mean, do you think the White Walkers win? at the end of the show?
No.
So then, is it that big of a deal?
Well, I mean, you could say that about.
You're saying that evens the table, right? You're saying that it makes it so it's not just going to be a slaughter fest.
Right. No, I'm saying it
So-
makes it so it's more likely for them to team up.
Yeah, but when we were talking about it, you said, oh, so they're not just going to march in and destroy all the White Walkers with their dragons. It's actually going to be a little bit more even.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So then they go to the later part of that scene where Tyrion talks about Dany's succession. And then I don't know if this is a actual legit foreshadowing for something like a Daenerys death, or maybe it's a Game of Thrones fake out foreshadowing like they've done before.
I think I'm going to put my money on Dany dying.
See, I mean,
But that's just me being just, okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
I mean, I could see it happening. I don't want it to happen. I could see it happening, but I still, if I were to put my money all on Black would be
Dany living.
Jon and Daenerys ending
That
the
is-
show on top.
That is the most 50-50 bet.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I could totally see the show. I think Jon has a way better chance of living than Dany does, for
Well,
sure.
Because, oh yeah, for sure. Because, and the reason why they could kill off Daenerys without ruining the entire show is because Jon's a full-blown Targaryen.
Right.
So it's almost like maybe they set up that plot in order for
Exactly.
a Daenerys death to
Yeah,
happen.
that's what I was thinking.
Okay. So then goes back to the Suicide Squad, but they're in kind of a blizzard, and then the undead bear comes out. And the way they showed, or the way they introduced the bear and kind of showed him off in the distance, and then they kind of showed the blue eyes in the wind. That's just so badass.
Yeah.
To let you know that it was a White Walker bear. And then obviously in this scene, Thoros gets manhandled. But then they show this, they put an emphasis on this scene in particular with the Hound, because Thoros and Beric set the bear on fire with their swords. And then the Hound is going to like try to save Thoros, but then stops and like stares in the fire and then still can't get over that.
Nope.
So do you think they put any emphasis on that for a reason?
I mean, it's always been in the show.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. There's whatever the theme is with the Lord of Light and Jon, Beric, and the Hound has something. I don't know what, but it's there.
Yeah. So I just thought it was interesting that they
And
would bring
Dany.
up a situation like that at that like moment.
Unless it's just a foreshadow on how he kills the mountain and gets over his fear.
Yeah, maybe that has something to do with it. You're right. Especially because that might happen next episode in the season finale.
Maybe.
So then, and another thing I just put in my notes, Thrones is so good at the realism of someone being like under attack, because even Thoros, like you think of him and you see him as this personality, just this drunk dude who's just always relaxed, doesn't give a shit. But then he's being under attack by a bear, and then you get those like high pitched screams that would just, I don't know. It just seems to me that all of their, like the sounds, that every individual sound that they make in this show makes it what it is because of how realistic it sounds.
Right, yeah. I agree.
And it was just interesting enough for me to put it in my notes. So let me go back to Winterfell, and with a meeting of Sansa and Littlefinger, and then obviously it just goes the ever begging question: what is Littlefinger up to? And in this scene in particular, when I watched the episode again, a few red flags stuck out to me that begs the possibility that Littlefinger could be dead.
Yeah, and Arya, because I either think that Littlefinger is dead at some point in the episode, and we find out in the finale, or he dies in the finale. One of the two.
Yeah,
By Arya.
Yeah, because just the way that Sansa and Littlefinger, or quote unquote Littlefinger, interact in this scene in particular, and how he talks about Arya being resourceful, and then he brings up suggesting that Brienne would intercede if one of the sisters wanted to harm the other. And then later in the episode, Sansa gets rid of Brienne.
See, and that's the thing is, I read that scene as, why don't you let Brienne do your dirty work for you?
Yeah. But then
Which-
Sansa did the
Exact
the
opposite. So that's either her just not listening to Littlefinger or him not getting his message across. Or
Well-
maybe that's what he wanted, because then they can take care of it. But that makes zero sense to me, because I think that Sansa would be smart enough to know that it's not going to be that fucking easy.
to kill Arya, you mean?
Yeah.
If she wanted to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why would you get rid of Brienne when this like lunatic to your, like, in Sansa's opinion, Arya's lost it. Why would you get rid of your bodyguard? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would say is that Brienne would step in the middle, like Littlefinger said, if Sansa was going to go after
or he
Arya.
could,
So
or
they
she
get
could
rid of
just
that
confide
situation.
in her and say, "Listen,
Yeah.
Arya's trying to kill me."
Mhm.
Don't you think Bran would listen to that?
Especially because Arya just got there.
Yeah,
No, you're right there. But I don't know. That's why it makes it weird that
yeah,
Littlefinger would say that in particular, because
Yeah.
obviously, as with any Littlefinger quote, you don't know exactly what he means,
wants. Yeah,
and yet later she sends Brienne off
unless
instead.
because I started to think I definitely think Littlefinger is not coming out of the season finale. So I was like, well, what if Littlefinger has been dead, which would be kind of like what happened with the phrase.
Yeah.
So why would he want Brienne gone? Well, then maybe he wants Brienne gone so that Arya can take out Sansa next.
If
Like
if Arya's Littlefinger
Arya is Littlefinger, she wants to take out Sansa, and she wants to do it quickly
and get rid of
and
Brienne.
just gets rid of Brienne.
Yeah, that would definitely be something that, like, if Arya ended up being Littlefinger, that would be like one of the red flags that you would
Yeah.
see going back to it. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So then after that scene, they go back again to the Suicide Squad, but this is when they actually come in contact with the White Walker and the Undead. And then this is one of the bigger revelations in terms of the battle with the White Walkers and the eventual Great War, is that they see the White Walker walking and the Undead are in the line. So that's kind of like a flag to begin with because they're following him. But then they ambush the White Walkers and the Undead, and then Jon ends up defeating the White Walker. But then as soon as he hits them, he dies, and then all the Undead fall, except for one.
Right.
So then that's one of the biggest revelations because that's how you defeat
Yeah.
the White Walkers.
And we'll get into it later.
Yeah.
But notable.
Yeah. But initially, because this was one of the scenes that made me realize, I totally thought that in the world of Game of Thrones that all of those guys were considered White Walkers.
Yeah, I did too. I remember listening to a video and it wasn't even a video, I was just watching the episodes and they would say, oh, it's the army of the undead.
Yeah, like the
And
Night
then-
King and the army of
And
on
then,
the Undead.
and then I watched a video that said, oh, these are the White Walkers, which are the actual people who turn everyone else. And so I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that.
And like we were talking about the last episode, we kind of predicted this almost because the only way that you can legitimately beat them
there's no
is
way.
if
I mean, we've been saying that for episodes
Yeah.
and episodes.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone would have thought anything different.
Yeah, it was just kind of nice to see it actually happen. And in terms of the character's perspective, it was
They had to, now they know.
Yeah, now they know.
Which makes sense why it ended the way it did.
Yeah. So then the White Walker that they ended up capturing, because one survived when he killed the White Walker because obviously it wasn't turned by him. They capture it, but then before they put a bag on its head, he lets out a screech, which then alerts all the other undead
And yikes.
to come running. And Jon knows right away. So then Jon sends Gendry to run back to
Get
the wall
Dany.
to Eastwatch to send a raven to Daenerys. And this is kind of where the maybe call them plot holes, but just maybe like, and I know in terms of the general TV show maybe, and this is more nitpicky when it comes to the story and the plot line, but the fact that Gendry was able to run back to Eastwatch
Yeah.
after they spent all that time traveling and he
Yeah.
was able to sprint back
And then
to
get
Eastwatch.
a raven that
Yeah.
must have just been cooking.
massively cooking.
Yeah. I agree. I said the same thing. I was like, yeah, this is his show, so it has to happen, but come on.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's to the point where it's so, maybe if she was already at Eastwatch or
Yeah,
something,
yeah. Then it would be more believable.
maybe they
but-
prepped for it and then had her there.
Yeah.
That would have made more sense. But then they ended up running away from the undead, and then they run towards that center rock, and then the ice collapses around them, and then that ends up making the White Walker or the undead surround them at that rock because they were waiting for the water to freeze over. But then it goes to overnight when they're looking out at all the undead, and you see all those pairs of blue eyes.
Yeah.
That scene was
See,
so
and
awesome.
maybe it is enough hours for a raven to get all the way down there.
Well, because
Maybe.
realistically, they got to the rock, and then it was still midday, and then they went to a night scene, and
Yeah.
then they went to them waking up. So I think it was at the least 24 hours.
Maybe.
So, I mean, in terms of,
I guess that's not too bad.
unless Gendry is running for 24 hours straight, that'd be pretty insane.
Well, he obviously got there mighty fast.
Yeah, exactly.
But who knows?
So then Gendry eventually finds his way to Eastwatch, and then Davos comes out finds him.
And the
sends
reason
Raven
why
and
the
Dragonstone.
one didn't die, which we didn't really mention, was it's only the only ones that die underneath the White Walker are the ones that he turned.
Yeah.
So when later they talk about it, but they say, yeah, the Night King turned everybody.
Yeah. So kill him,
Yeah.
everyone dies.
Yep.
Um,
The first making of the very first pyramid scheme
yeah.
of all time.
Oh yeah, and then I put in my notes. Where was it? Revelation of the White Walker pyramid scheme is unveiled.
Yeah.
One White Walker equals many undead.
You should try this tea, this herbal tea.
Yeah. It'll
So
be really cool.
You buy it from me and then sell it to other people, and then they sell it to other people.
But one big caveat: they got to be dead first.
Yeah.
As long as they're dead.
Yep.
That's the only caveat. So then this Suicide Squad goes in the morning. Then they wake up and realize Thoros is dead. And then it goes to Jorah and Jon talking about the. I said Jorah and Jon talking about the pyramid scheme, and then that's when the Night King arrives, and then Jon says maybe he was the one that turned them when they were talking about
Right.
why the one survives when all the other ones fell.
Yeah. Which, again, as a viewer, makes total sense.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms, especially like we've said before, in terms of the legitimacy of defeating the White Walkers.
Yeah.
So then they go back to Winterfell, where Sansa receives the invitation from Cersei to attend the meeting at King's Landing.
Was that from Cersei for sure, or is that from Dany?
I think
I was thinking about that.
well, because in the preview for the next episode, they show Brienne at that meeting.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the Raven was legit.
No. Because Tyrion and Dany were the ones that were saying they formulated the plan to drop the White Walker in King's Landing and have a sit down meeting.
Mhm.
So
I think Cersei sent out the invitation because the meeting was at King's Landing. So she sent the invitation to King's Landing for the meeting.
Okay, I guess.
So I think it was legit.
No, I'm not. I'm saying it was legit.
You're just wondering who it was from?
Yeah,
Oh,
because I was saying that Tyrion, Dany, and Jon made the plan. Shouldn't they be the ones that send all the invites out?
Yeah. I guess maybe it would be weird if they sent an invite to go to a different place, maybe instead of where they were. I don't know.
I don't know.
I thought I
don't
remember
think
her
it
saying
matters.
from Cersei.
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
Yeah. But it just ends up being that Sansa then sends Brienne in her stead, and then
Right.
we talked about that before about why she exactly would do that.
But good move by her part, I think.
To send Brienne and not go down. Yeah, because she talks about what did she say? I said I love that Sansa wants to say, and that she talks about if they want another Lannister prisoner, they can come and get me, and then I have work to do here. And I thought that was pretty badass.
Well, and she wants to do everything that Robb and her dad didn't do.
Yeah.
And then she advised Jon against, but Jon's going to be there anyway.
Yeah.
So get the North, because the Northerners are not too happy with Jon right now.
And
Just
then
stupid. But
and then she mentions in this episode that she hasn't heard from Jon in weeks, which seems weird that he would go from Dragonstone all the way to Eastwatch for this big battle, for this big mission that they're on, and not even tell her what's going on.
it just further supports the idea that all Jon's worried about right now is finding the solution.
Yeah, I guess. It
Literally.
just seems like a Raven would be pretty easy.
I know. You'd think that Jon would check in with his long-lost sister and brother that they thought were dead.
No shit. Instead of just getting a Raven and then saying, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
So then we go back to Dragonstone, where it shows Dany walking out to her 3 dragons in that white Dragon Queen dress.
It was sick.
Badass.
That was one of the first things I noticed too. I was, whoo. Yeah.
And then I don't know if I mentioned in the last episode how I saw a Google image that might have been a spoiler for me for that episode. All I saw was a picture of her in that white dress. So I was like, I didn't see any dragon, any context or anything. I just saw her in that white dress. So I was like, white means up north. She's going there.
Yeah.
So it was kind of spoiled for me, kind of not really. And then the only thing else, Tyrion advises that she does nothing and that she doesn't actually go and
Tyrion,
save Jon.
I love you. Shut up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, do you agree? Do you think he was right with doing nothing? Because I get what he's saying, but in terms of how many of the dudes.
But the thing is, these last few episodes, he's given her shitty advice where it's time for her to kind of flex her strength a little bit, and show her power. Because if she didn't do that, then maybe Cersei doesn't fold.
Yeah, because
if she doesn't go, then maybe everything that they worked for is crumbled.
Yeah. Plus, Jon dies, and no one wants that to happen.
Yeah. Shut up, Tyrion.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Shut up. And then all I put was that dragon exit is so awesome. How they jump off the cliff and everything.
Well, and Tyrion does have to kind of play devil's advocate. Otherwise, what's the point of having a hand?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
True.
It's fine.
So then they go back to the Suicide Squad on the rock, and then this is morning, And this is what sets off the fury because the Hound and as soon as they went to the Hound and they showed him just like it was super quiet, him staring out to the undead. I was just like, yeah, he's gonna throw a rock and then it's gonna hit the ice and they're just gonna come running.
But he smokes the first one.
Yeah, he smokes the first one in the face, and then the second rock that he threw, I wish they could at least give it a little more power because it went like halfway.
Yeah.
So it's like, bro, did you honestly think that was gonna get there?
Yeah.
So I don't know why they made it go halfway, but I guess they got the point across.
But one thing that people were griping about was not why didn't all the undead go at the same time, but they couldn't because all that weight would just crack the ice again.
Yeah.
So they had to go one by one ish because
and they had to confirm that it was actually, I mean, that they, which are heavier than a rock, would survive.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's a good point. And then obviously it erupts into the battle scene where Tormund almost dies.
Well, that was horrible.
Terrifying.
I
and
definitely thought it was over.
100%. I
Yeah.
thought, well, as soon as, because that's the thing. With Game of Thrones, they almost foreshadow it in the way within seconds of it actually happening.
Yeah.
Because when he got hit in the face and the music kind of went quiet, I was like, oh man, he's going to get hit.
When the two started dragging him out into the water.
When he said, help me, I was like, boom,
it's over.
He's done.
Yeah.
And then he was just screaming. The music goes quiet, but then obviously the Hound eventually saves the day.
Yep.
But it definitely seemed, my life flashed before my eyes because
Yeah.
Tormund is one of my favorite characters, and he almost bit the dust. But I mean, I'm upset with how they did it because it's like Game of Thrones you think is just brutal, and yet it's like, oh, save the day,
Right, yeah.
golden character, but yet I don't know. I love that he lived, but then the way they did it was kind of, I know.
Cheesy.
Yeah, different. So then, when Jon's standing on top of the hill, and he like cuts the guy that's holding on to one of their bannermen, and then reaches for him, and then he falls over, and Jon sees like the ridiculous amount of undead.
Yeah.
And I just love those Game of Thrones scenes because they did the same thing when Jon, what was it?
Battle of the Bastards.
Yes.
When he's like looking in the sky or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it just like there's.
Well, I mean, he's like bodies are just piling over him and stuff. Yeah.
You can kind of hear like the bass of what's going on in the background, but the music is super quiet and you just like can't hear anything at all, and just gets that fear and like hopelessness feeling just across. And Game of Thrones is so good at that. They're so good at hopelessness and fear. So then obviously Daenerys comes in, and the scene that took 7 seasons, that everybody wanted to see as soon as
lighten it up.
Yeah, exactly. Dragon versus the White Walkers and the undead obviously was the scene I was talking about. Then the Night King was literally staring at, and this is one of the things that I had a gripe with this episode in particular, is that, and it comes another thing where I understand, but it's just the way you do it. It's almost like I want you to do the scene differently, because when Dany comes in with Drogon and they start lighting shit up, then they go to the center rock to save everybody. But then that's when the Night King pulls out his spear, and literally from the point of view that they show, the Night King is literally right next to Drogon, Daenerys, everybody with a spear in hand, but yet Drogon's on the ground, stationary, and yet he cocks back and goes for the one in the hair.
Wait, you have a problem with that?
I'm saying in terms of the story.
Really?
Yeah, because
I think that's way more badass.
Well, it's badass, but in terms of why would the Night King not just throw a spear at Drogon?
Does it matter?
I'm saying in terms of the plot.
Yeah, does it matter?
What do you mean? Why does it matter?
Why? Yeah, tell me why.
Because they're sitting right in front of them, and it's
So?
like the logical standpoint. It's like when people get mad at horror movies when the characters are too dumb. It's like, if you're not gonna make him go at Drogon when he's sitting right there, don't put them in that situation.
I guess.
Maybe put the Night King where he's like farther away. Not literally like they pan from behind him and Drogon is sitting right there.
I think that the real beef comes from not developing what the White Walkers and who they are as people, because maybe this is him just saying, this is coming. This is a power move, and him just being, we consider them zombies who just want to kill everything. Maybe they have more of a motive than we think.
Maybe like that would make more sense. Maybe to reinforce that fact, they should have included like a scene where he's like looking at him and him and Daenerys make eye contact or something.
Yeah.
And then he cocks up and takes.
Because there could be a reason for that we don't know yet.
It just seems like if the main goal was killing a dragon, because he goes after Drogon too, so it's not like he just wanted one to take over and let him go. So it seemed like, I don't know, like it just made...
There could be some underlying symbolism though that we just don't know yet.
True.
Or he could have even thought, okay, there's one dragon there, but they're getting taken out by my entire army. I'll take the other two out. I don't know.
I guess. Yeah, it was just my initial reactions were just.
I thought that was so awesome.
Well, I mean, it was so. I mean, like I said, in terms
That's
of
probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire show.
yeah, in terms of action, just pure action, just straight cockback.
Because you
I
got
wish you would have said like Kobe when he let go.
Because you got to think that. I mean, when I was watching it, they didn't even react. The White Walkers.
Well, when the dragons first arrived.
Oh, they have dragons.
Sick.
One sec. Hey, Jeff.
Do you guys want a dragon? That'd be
Wait,
pretty cool.
Do you guys? Can I have this one?
Yeah.
Steve, you take this one, and then
I'll take the next one
I'll
if
take
you
the
get-
next
if
one
you
or
get it.
whatever. Here, let me see. Let me stretch out the old arm.
Yeah. And then he just cocks
And then
back,
pinpoints
and how he
it.
aims his hand, and then he's just whoop.
Hey, maybe Drogon can handle, because he's bigger. Maybe he can handle the spear. I don't know.
Yeah, it would definitely be Viserion. By the way, I had to look that up.
Yeah,
Viserion
was
was the
the
one
one that
that
died.
bit the dust, the gold
man.
one.
And everyone's so pissed, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, like I said, in terms of pure action, it was an amazing, like, awesome scene and a great spectacle to watch.
I'm so ready to watch Night King on a White Walker
What-
dragon.
Here's a question for you: do you think it's blue fire, or do you think he
Well, yeah.
blows ice?
Yeah. Oh, blue fire.
Blue fire,
Yeah.
because I think it is too. But then people were saying or ice and fire, so they were thinking that
That'd be
maybe the
cool.
dragon.
Just
Maybe this whole
dog fight is
Yeah,
just
maybe this-
between Danny and the Night King.
Yeah, maybe this whole time, Song of Ice and Fire, people have been thinking it's John Danny, and then maybe
Yeah.
the White Walkers. But maybe it's just they've been talking about the dragons this whole time,
Yeah, maybe.
and then foreshadowing that this would
Yeah.
happen.
Maybe.
And then another,
But you still think that the dragon's like one of the biggest deaths?
yeah,
Just personally?
in terms of the spectacle of the
Because
show.
I think that your personal preference is weighing in a lot.
Well, I mean, obviously, but any personal preference when he talks about like the impact of a character on a show. But in terms of when you explain Game of Thrones to someone and someone that doesn't watch Game of Thrones, if they were to pick out maybe say 3 things that come to your mind when you think of Game of Thrones, one of them is going to be dragons. So the spectacle of having the dragons
Maybe.
from the
Mine
beginning of the
wouldn't be.
show. Well, I mean, I'm talking like when people hear Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I would think that dragons would be part
Really?
of their
I don't
first
know.
3 thoughts that
I
pop into
wouldn't
their
think
head.
so. Because they've played such a little part until very recently.
I guess. I mean, in terms of the show, but I'm talking about like in terms of like the impact of the show.
Maybe. I don't know.
Because
They're-
like the Night King hasn't been part of the show a lot, but if he died, that'd be a big fucking deal.
Yeah, but the story could still go on just fine.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean in terms of the dragons?
Well, I mean,
Because I'm not arguing that the story's not going to go on.
I'm just saying in terms of deaths, this is a pretty tame one. It's one of 3 dragons dying. It sucks. People are super sad, but it's just nothing.
It's just
compared
such
to
a huge. I mean, if you go from no undead dragon to 1 undead dragon, and you're the Night King,
Versus
let
2.
alone
I'm-
there's probably
I mean,
a
we don't
chance
know
that you have more power.
To me, we don't know the true power of the White Walkers at all because we never see them. But B, we still don't get any Bran action, so we still don't know because Bran knows how to solve the world,
Yeah.
and we don't get to know that ever because it's Game of Thrones apparently. But I don't know. The whole idea of Game of Thrones literally has had nothing to do with the White Walkers at all, and John's trying to get that to say, hey, this is actually a way bigger issue than you think it is, sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the White Walkers win, so I'm not going to sweat. There'll be a huge battle, but I don't anticipate the White Walkers winning, so I'm not going to
Yeah, I guess
sweat it
I'm
too much.
taking it more as like a day by day thing rather than like
if
I
you
know
were-
it's going to come to
like
an end.
if you were Danny, you'd be like, holy fuck, this
if
sucks.
you were anybody in the show and you saw a Night
You'd be-
King
yeah, you'd throw up.
riding a dragon, exactly.
Oh my god, I just can't wait. I'm so
Puke
excited.
everywhere.
Hopefully they make more. Go White Walkers.
Go White Walkers. But then another thing I wanted to ask, do you think those spears that they have, because they're always carrying them around, do you think
Yeah.
that they're limited?
Ooh, I don't know. I'd have to assume,
Because he
right?
pulls off another one,
Yeah.
and it's like when he pulls it off and like hands it to him, it seems like a big deal to the point where they don't have
Dude,
the
I
ability
bet.
to just fire them off.
Well, I bet they're made out of something very, very specific.
Yeah.
That is not easy to come by.
Yeah.
Because they can't just be ice. That doesn't make any sense. What, are you 100,
Explode a dragon.
like, literally Mach
set
1
him on
speed?
fire?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no way.
Yeah.
I bet it's made out of Valyrian steel or dragon glass or something. But
And cause they make it a point every time they see them because they're carrying them around.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I feel like if they were limited, that would make sense.
I wonder. I mean, I wouldn't know this, but were dragons a big part of the divide between the wall to begin with?
Dragons, you mean?
Yeah,
Maybe.
that's what I was saying.
But then obviously everybody's theory is that the Night King's going to use it, just burn down the wall with the dragon.
No, yeah. I'm just saying, is that what got the White Walkers to stay north to begin with?
Oh, dragons and the wall, you mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Because why
a good
would they
question.
have these random spears that they're just
Oh,
hawking
yeah.
around?
Yeah. Oh, you're right. So, like, there's got to be a reason why they have them.
Yeah, and that's not their first, because I got to imagine that's not the first dragon they saw. So I just wonder if back in the day, they were around, and now they're like, okay, we're gonna be ready.
Yeah.
Let's go practice our overhand throws.
Needless to say, Night King's gotten some long toss in there for
Yeah.
sure. But then, so the Night King takes out the Syrian, and then Jon goes up and sees the Night King's pulling out another spear, and then he tells Dany to go, and then Jon gets tackled into the ice water.
Yeah,
And
and
then-
like trying to go after the Night King.
Yeah. And then Daenerys leaves. That's another thing, like, from Jon's perspective, especially like after maybe when you're right next to the dragon, cutting off a few guys to like help people get on, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
like when he left the
Yeah, that was
dragon
weird.
and like cutting up people, and then especially when you get that perspective, because the dragons were carving like a circle
Yeah,
around
yeah.
them within the ice, so the undead couldn't get to them. But it was like, especially because they showed that scene where the fire was coming in, Jon was cutting off. There's like two more dudes. It's like, Jon, just get back to the fucking dragon.
Well, and at first that is what he did, was cut people down so other people were getting out.
Yeah.
And then they're like, come back. My assumption is the fact that they just had no idea that the dragon could get taken down like in a blink of an eye. So Jon's probably thinking, all right, we got 3 of these things. Let's end this.
Yeah.
now.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
You know, and so he's going after the Night King and just saying, no, let's fry his ass. Let's
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because he doesn't know that the Night King's about to tomahawk one down
Yeah. No
out
shit.
of the sky.
Yeah. Then as soon as he pulls out the second one, that's when Jon tells him to go.
Yeah.
But then they go. Daenerys gets away, obviously. But then Jon comes out of the ice water, and this was another thing that people complain about because it's how do you survive in ice water with
Yeah.
all of that equipment on for
Yeah.
that long and pop out and able to walk around?
And do anything.
Yeah. But then Uncle Benjen comes in to save the day, and I
Yeah.
thought it was absolutely hilarious because when he first sees Uncle Benjen come in, he gets off his horse, takes off like his face mask and his hood and stuff, and Jon just like the way he is because he just got out of ice water and he was just freezing, and you can see his facial reaction. It was Uncle Benjen,
Yeah.
and I wish they would have just added like a Uncle Benjen. Wait, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck are you doing here?
That was so random.
Literally the last person that
Great
you would think
cameo.
that he would see. But
Yeah.
it's a great cameo, but it's specifically with that badass weapon.
Yeah.
And Jon says, "Come with me." And that's another thing where that doesn't make sense because there was so much room on that horse.
Yeah.
And it'd be one thing if the undead were right behind him.
Well, I was thinking that he was trying to distract them because all they care about is the first live body.
Yeah.
So they're probably just taking him out, and it just gives Jon time.
I guess. But it would seem like they would put a more emphasis on the urgency of the
Yeah.
situation because he smacks the horse's ass, he takes off, and then Uncle Benjen, like, he looks over, and the
he's
undead are like
toast.
100 feet away.
Yeah.
So it's like he's got time to prep and everything.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
like,
know.
just jump on the back and
Yeah.
go. So it
Oh, well.
seemed, and it was just, and it goes back again, like we were talking about with Gendry. You barely show him in the show.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
then bring
actors
him
that
back
were
and
around
just
every 3
murder him.
years.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, thanks for the 5-minute scene. You're going now. So then they go to Eastwatch because Daenerys made it back, and then the horn sounds as Jon returns. And then this is where they have a quick scene before they go back to Winterfell, where Daenerys sees the knife wounds in his stomach from when the Night's Watch killed him.
Right.
So she didn't bring it up later in the episode when Jon wakes up, but I'd be curious to see when that is actually brought up.
Yeah.
And if it's brought up at
Or if
all in
he-
the season finale, or if it has any significance at all.
Yeah. I mean, they've brought it up so many times. I just don't understand why that's such a big. Why did they take the time to make that a point of conversation?
Yeah. Specifically, I mean, in this episode, she sees them for the first
Yeah.
time, and it's like
and,
they
and
make
she
that
could have
emphasis.
even thought maybe he got them that day
Yeah, maybe. That's true.
and they healed up or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But it seems like they put more
Or
of an
she'd just be
emphasis
like,
on
all
it.
right, he's got battle wounds.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of
Maybe he was
fights.
just staring at his abs.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Ooh.
Ooh. stab wounds, but hey, what's behind those?
Hey,
So then they go back to Winterfell where Sansa finds Arya's faces, and then Arya makes the grave threat of talking about how the possibility that she could wear Sansa's face.
that's so weird.
And then
It was really weird.
yeah, and I have in all caps, what is her deal? Focus on what matters.
Yeah.
And then do you think, one of the questions I want to ask you, do you think either one of them make a preemptive strike that they'll like regret? Or do you think
Yes.
Bran comes in to
But
like
should we-
solve the situation?
No, I definitely think they do. But should we wait or do it now?
What do you mean?
Because were we gonna do death predictions
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we could do that.
right now?
What's your death prediction?
Littlefinger and Sansa.
And Sansa.
Yep.
You think Arya
Package
kills them
deal.
both?
Yes,
Wow.
that's my hot take.
I would agree with you on the Littlefinger part, but I don't know. Maybe
I mean, it's just me being like, the show's gonna kill somebody that's important. That's probably on the good side. Sansa.
yeah. I'm thinking somehow Theon gets Yara back and kills like Euron, but then both sides still team up because it's like Euron dies and then Cersei just like, well, I don't really give a fuck about him anyways. I
Yeah.
still got his ship, so peace. So I think Euron could die. That would be my one pick for
Okay.
this last episode.
Fair
enough. So then,
I think Jon and Dany and Tyrion die.
wow, that's quite a bold prediction.
Yeah. I'll just convince myself that now, so if it does happen, then I'm not that upset about it.
There you go.
Except I will stop
You-
watching the show.
Except I would
be very upset about it.
upset. So then they go back to the ship that Jon is on. And I have in my notes here, Jon's dick lengthens by the second at this point because Jon has the audacity to call Daenerys Dany
Dany.
for the first
Dude,
time.
That's a nuts out moment.
Yeah, it's
That
just
was
your balls are dropping to the floor.
Dany.
Yeah. Thank you, Dany.
Thank you, Dany.
And then
She was like, what?
yeah. Did you just drop a Dany in there?
They've already got pet names for each other.
Yeah, exactly. And then
Wait, are you still holding true though that they don't bang before
the end
they
of the
find out?
the end of the before they find out.
Yeah,
Man, the sexual tension, especially in this scene, man.
I'm
was
holding strong.
high.
It doesn't waver me at all.
I maybe I'll stick to my guns right now, but put it this way, I would not be surprised if it happens at this
I
point.
mean, would you have ever been surprised?
No, but at the time, or I guess,
You're just less confident.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, would you have ever? Not since I learned that Jon was a Targaryen, maybe. But then again, I mean, before you knew he was a Targaryen, him and Dany getting together necessarily wasn't a big thing.
Yeah.
So, still think doesn't happen, but like I said, wouldn't be surprised if it did. But then Daenerys makes a point that because Jon says he regrets going because obviously one of the dragons died,
Right.
but Dany says I don't
Yeah.
because if we hadn't gone, I wouldn't have seen it. You have to
Yeah.
see it to know. And I think, do you think is maybe that's a foreshadowing for this is what's like them seeing the undead is what's going to take from Cersei?
Well, I mean, that's what it's taken for everybody.
Yeah,
So I don't think it's foreshadowing.
it was
It's
just her like a confirmation for her.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But then I said, I put in my notes with his quotes, "Thank you, Dany, 6 inches." And then he says, "All right, not Dany. How about my queen?
Yeah.
Another 6 inches." There it grows. John's just being the ultimate badass. But
Yep.
then you were talking about whether we think they're going to hook up.
Because I think they're going back to Winterfell, right? Or Jon will.
Well, they're going, you mean initially before they go to the meeting?
Yeah.
I would imagine so, yeah.
So Jon will probably talk to Bran because he hasn't seen him.
I don't know. Because
They
he
could-
hasn't
they
carried
could
gone to
not.
Winterfell yet. They might just go straight to Dragonstone and then go to the
They
meeting.
could. I would have assumed that Jon would go back, talk to Sansa, let her know what the dealio is,
Yeah.
and then go. But meanwhile, he could talk to Bran, when Bran came back, the first thing he said was, "I need to talk to Jon." So he might let him know that that's actually his aunt.
Yeah. That's true.
That's what I would guess.
Mm-hmm. But I just put for being like blood related in terms of the story, they implement some mad love between them. And
Yeah.
like in terms of they try and do it in terms of the story, but just the emotions that the actors put onto it and put onto the characters' faces.
Yeah.
It just seems like they make a point emphasis of
Yep.
make it seem like you guys are dead in love.
Yep.
But damn it, they are so good at acting. It's
Yep.
nuts. And then obviously the final scene of this episode is the Night King turning Viserion into Blue Eyes White Dragon from Yukio.
Yep.
And then I had the question of, do you think it's blue fire or ice? And
I think it's fire.
blue fire. Either way,
It's awesome.
It's going to be pretty badass
It's
to see it.
way
Do you think we see
cool.
it? Or do you think that's like the last we see of the White Walkers until next season?
I don't know. I could definitely see the finale ending with him riding Viserion.
Like Bran seeing it and then it goes?
or whatever.
Yeah.
Even if it's just
just
a pan over.
yeah,
or
just
whatever.
in general.
Yeah.
I could totally see that. But then again, I could also see that scene of him turning the dragon would be like the final scene of that's how the White Walker's story is going to be set up for the next season.
Maybe the White Walkers break up the meeting in King's Landing.
The snow just comes in with the dragon. So, whoa, this is not something that we previewed.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are our reactions for the entirety of season 7, episode 6, Beyond the Wall, setting up for the season finale. It's going to be oh so great. But now we're going to get into some Patreon supporter reactions. Remember, if you want to get in on the show, just go to patreon.com/TJENT. Leave your reactions before the season finale on Monday, usually around 8 o'clock. If you can get them in by 7, we'll go 7 o'clock. We'll raise it one more hour. If you can get in by 7 o'clock, get yourself on the show. And first off, we have every week supporter and contributor, T. Stu. He's got a long one. He said, honestly, had a lot of issues with this episode. And we have 2 complaint posts today out of our 3 posts. So it's definitely raising some interesting points. He said it was insanely badass. Well, he says, don't get me wrong, it was insanely badass throughout. Shout out to Undead Bears.
Yeah.
He said, but the timing and the plot was 100% off for me. And he kind of mentions the same thing that I did. The timing was ridiculous. Gendry running nonstop to Eastwatch.
Yeah.
Ravens and Drying flying at Mach 5.
Yeah, exactly.
All leading up to Danny conveniently arriving to save the day. And Benjen / Cold Hands. Was that his name in the books? Or did they mention Cold Hands in the show?
Do they? I don't know.
Maybe when he runs into Bran and the girl that was with Bran. Conveniently arriving to save Jon. And he says, what a random and pointless death, by the way. And I maybe not, because I get in terms of they had the significance of him saving Jon.
Yeah,
and, and like progressing the destiny that Jon has. But in
Right.
terms of just appearing,
yeah.
saying, I'm not going to join you, go.
Yeah.
I'm going to swing like 3 times with my super badass weapon
Right.
and then die.
Yeah.
It's like
Peace.
sick.
Cool.
Thanks for joining. And then he says, Arya seems to be reverting back to her petty little girl from earlier seasons. I'm not one to support Sansa, but Arya is being incredibly naive.
Yeah.
100% agree. And then he says, Tormund should have died. It was absolutely terrifying watching him scream and get pulled in the water, only for him to be conveniently saved at the last minute. What happened?
There was way too many. I mean, lately there's been way too many close calls.
Yeah, that like end up being saved.
Yeah.
Because he says,
Especially with Jon, too. Like, I love Jon, but can we just keep him alive and not put him in life or death scenarios every goddamn episode?
yeah, exactly.
Battle of the Bastards, it's like, okay, so he just gets revived and then immediately, I'm gonna crawl my way out of
Yeah,
here.
Jon
God
just
damn
can't
it.
catch a break. Because then he says, what happened to the old Game of Thrones where no one is safe?
Yeah.
Lastly, what a blue ball moment for Jon. I was so close to predicting the exact date that they get it on. So I think he predicted that this episode would be it.
Gotcha.
So our second Patreon supporter is Brad. He has his reaction says, seems like the writers are getting lazy and tying up loose ends.
Yeah.
So this is our second complete one. Pretty sad for a show that has been so well done over the past 6 years. For me, Jon Snow is really falling in my power rankings. How many times does this guy need to bail out?
Yeah,
like we were talking about. Battle of the Bastards, the Ren Wobbin brings him back. Now Dany saves him with her dragons. I agree with Tanner, though. Game of Thrones has gotten away from what made it so popular in the beginning seasons, as in no one is safe.
Yeah, I agree.
And then he says, and personally, I thought the polar bear scene was dumb and unnecessary. Slow, boring episode until the final scene. He says, get it together. David Benoyev and DB Weiss, those are the producers of the show. Did you think the bear scene was needed?
I mean,
I thought the blue eyes was cool, and like the action part of it was cool.
I just think I thought it was more foreshadowing. I mean, they tie it out in the end of the episode, but that's just showing what can turn.
Yeah.
So to me, it goes, the second you saw that dragon go down. See, if they showed the dragon get posted and then not it turn, then next episode you're going, well, that bear turned, so clearly they can make a dragon a White Walker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it just shows that.
Oh, maybe that animal. Oh, yeah.
See
You're
what
right.
I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's just kind of the idea of you had giants, which was a huge revelation. Okay.
Yeah, because they made that a point of emphasis.
Yeah, they can turn a giant. Okay, well, now they can turn bears. I think they should have just waited and not done the Blue Eyes White Dragon this episode. Postpone it.
Postpone it. Like maybe the first, you couldn't do a scene
Just
like that.
just do it the same way that we might think it ends, where he's flying on it.
Oh, so end the season finale like that.
Yeah.
Like how they did this episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely
And then
could've
everyone
happened.
goes, holy shit.
Yeah.
They
That
can
would-
do that.
Because if they were going to do a cliffhanger, that would be
That'd be a great
cliffhanger to
one.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good points. Good points. So we go to our final contributor, Connor Gartland, another frequent contributor. Shout out. So this is an opposite reaction. So this is cool. He said, okay, so overall, very good episode. Complete opposite. He said, it is kind of annoying that the show is going in Hollywood direction. He said,
Yeah.
like, for fuck's sake, Arya and Sansa fighting like they're on MTV.
Yeah.
Arya is my favorite character, and after this episode, she just seems like a stupid little girl. So it kind of gets the same theme.
No one's on Arya's side, but everyone understands Arya's side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's almost like the spectator syndrome where it's just like, realize the
where
situation
you're
that's
at,
going on around
But if
you.
I was you, I might be fuck.
Yeah, exactly. He says, I'm Set, the only person who died north of the wall is Thoros. You send them on an impossible mission and only one slightly important character dies.
Yeah.
This is not to mention what the hell is going on with the time span this season. Some characters travel faster than the Flash, and then the White Walkers have moved like 30 miles. That's so true.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, that's another thing because you see the undead run, but yet when they march, they're going like molasses.
Well, and how fucking far away are they?
yeah, like no shit.
All they do is walk,
Yeah.
and yet they've made no progress.
It's not like they
whatsoever.
get tired. It's not like they
Yeah.
have to stop to
I
eat.
mean, I definitely will get on board with the idea that the show has done a shitty job at connecting dots.
The thing is that what's an easy way to remedy this timing problem? Why rush it and make 2 final seasons?
Yeah.
Like why, and especially with a
With
show like
seven-
Game of Thrones, you're not making money.
Yeah. And with 7 episodes in a season.
Yeah. And it's like, it's one thing to make them longer, but they maybe been like 5 to 6 minutes longer.
Yeah.
What-
The finale's supposed to be 2 hours, I think.
Is it really of this
Or no,
season?
hour and a half.
Hour and a half. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, hour and a half.
Yeah.
But
But
then
it's
the
just,
next season's supposed to be 2 hours each episode.
maybe the actors were like saying, I want to be done with this, and maybe that's why they accelerated the process.
I don't know.
Because they talk about the prequels too and wanting to get that started. So,
That's so fucking lame.
but it just seems like solve the timing issues by not rushing the show.
Yeah.
But then, so yeah, we agree with your skepticism there,
Yeah.
Connor.
But I did like the episode.
Yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Loved the episode, but I totally agree. It is just getting a little bit too, oh my God, they're going to save everybody. Whee!
Yeah, exactly. And then you do raise a good point though in terms of when are things happening in terms of like when they tell Genji to run and then they go to a scene where they're stuck on the rock. How far is Genji gone? Like we don't know in terms of
Right,
it could be
yeah.
at different times in the story.
Yeah.
So that's definitely an interesting point. With all that being said, holy shit, GG Ice Dragon, not mistyped. I liked how they mimicked the story of Marathon with Gendry. Oh, and since Targaryen's wed within the family, Jon and Dany are for sure getting it on at some point because we brought up that Targaryen lineage before.
Yeah. They
So-
bang each other all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm still
Still
holding
standing
strong.
firm.
Yeah.
Then he says, finally, and now the Ice King has pissed Dany off more than anyone we've ever seen, and she becomes a psycho when she's mad, so hopefully she doesn't do anything stupid. And that's a good point, because Tyrion references,
She has a short
like
temper.
losing her temper and
but,
stuff.
But she already is on her way back to go to this meeting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she already hasn't lost her mind. She literally looks at Jon and says, I'm glad that we went.
Oh, yeah.
So
No, I would mean it more in the sense of she just gets fired up to the point where now she's full board, like no holds barred, no questions of let's go kick the shit out of the Night
Oh,
King.
yeah. But she wasn't Connor's comment that she makes a mistake?
Oh, yeah. He just said hopefully she doesn't do any stupid mistakes.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is.
Maybe he's talking about with the meeting with Cersei, because Tyrion references that Cersei's probably going to say something to provoke it.
Yeah, but
provoke her.
his comment was specifically with the Night King, saying that his actions are gonna poke the beast and
Oh.
she'll do something dumb. But to me, she already has proven that she won't do that because she sits down with Jon immediately after and says, "I'm glad we went."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, she's not blood crazy now.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll be pissed, but
Take out one of her children,
yeah.
man.
And I mean, yeah, Tyrion says that she's known to have a short temper, but when has her temper really fucked her that bad?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, because Dragon's fine, obviously.
Yeah.
But in going to save Jon ends up killing one of her dragons, but that wasn't a temper thing. That was
yeah.
like, I got to save
Save,
Jon
yeah.
and continue this plan in
Yeah.
hopes of mankind.
Oh, I basically folded Cersei's entire army. That worked out pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the attack on Highgarden, although it ended with an arrow in Dragon, it definitely helped.
Yeah.
So there you go. If you want to get involved in our season finale episode, go to patreon.com/TJENTA. No A, just TJENT.
No A.
I tried to do the accent. It didn't work. Patreon.com/TJENT. Get in your responses. You might even on the show. And finally, our Game of Thrones power rankings.
Yes.
I think you started with last time, I believe.
I don't remember. You can.
I'll start it off. Start it off. My number 5, and my number 5 was kind of hard, so I kind of threw him in just because he saved my boy Tormund, the Hound.
He
had a couple good lines.
Yeah.
Especially when he was talking about Beric. It's like, this guy got killed 6 times. You don't see him bitching about it when he's talking to Gendry.
Mine, he was number 6.
Number 6? Oh,
Yeah.
6 man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was mainly, I would say 90% of the reason why he's my number 5 is because he just saved Tormund.
Mhm.
Tormund's the man. One of my favorite characters outside like the main ones.
Yep. Truth.
Number 5.
Tormund.
Nice. Nice.
For the reason that I fucking adore Tormund. He's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I was debating on putting him at 5, but it's like, I don't know, with him almost dying and needed to get saved.
I was
kinda
between those
just
two
pushed
because it
off.
was like, do I give the credit to the dude who saved him or
Yeah.
him?
Yeah.
So I give. It's a good swap though.
Yeah.
You take the Hound, I'll take Tormund.
Yeah, there we go. So number 4, I have as Dany, is because she made a good move in saving Jon, but it's impossible not to follow in her power rankings when you lose a dragon. And it's just, that's as simple as it can be.
My number 4 is Daenerys.
Wow.
And it's because it was sweet when she saved Jon, but it's impossible not to move down the power rankings when you lose a dragon.
You know, you make some great points that I never thought of before. You make some great points.
right.
That's a great point. Number 3, I have is Jon. He's fallen for me a couple spots, mainly just because his stupid move to go away from the dragon and the fact that he got tackled into the water because of it.
Yeah.
Granted, I know his grand goal
Was to end it.
Yeah, and to end it and save the people going on the dragon. Because like I said, initially I agreed with it. It's just when he ventured away from the dragon.
I wonder if
disagreed.
he hopped on the dragon though, Viserion would just die anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, that could be a point. But then the reason, one of the other big reasons why he got pushed down to my number 3 is because my 1 and 2 pushed him out of there. What's your number 3?
All right. My number 3 is Uncle Benjen
Nice.
for 100% just saving the day.
Yeah, just saving
That is
Jon.
it. Yeah. I mean, he didn't do anything else. So.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He was on screen for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And Uncle Benjen is actually my number 2.
Okay.
Mainly because of that fact, and I just pushed him a little higher just because I think that
'Cause
weapon is super
And
badass.
yeah, he's the shit. That
Yeah.
when he just comes swinging in like
Yeah.
the Headless Horseman. Yeah. That's
So awesome.
Yeah, that's way dope.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're number 2.
My number 2 is the Night King
Ooh, nice.
because I mean, he might be my second favorite character now.
Yeah.
He is so dope.
Doesn't say a word, doesn't need to.
And he doesn't do anything. He just wants to rule the world.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, maybe that's the White Walker's goal. They just want to conquer everything.
And I would like him, no offense, but to possibly be quarterback for the Lions.
Yeah,
'Cause
that would be cool.
He's got a great arm.
And because of that cannon for an arm,
Yeah.
it makes him my number 1 in my power rankings.
Ba-boom,
Number
yeah.
1, numero uno in my power rankings is none other than the Night King because he cocked that shit back like Tom Brady
Yeah.
and just Hail Mary, just locked and loaded,
Didn't flinch.
took a
and
dragon
just
down.
Arm aiming.
Yeah,
And
just
And first sport of javelin toss
yeah, there you go.
created.
He's
We
created
have
he's created the first pyramid scheme.
and a new sport.
Yeah, he's in the Olympic gold in a sport that he created.
So I mean, how can you not like him?
And as a side note, if you want to have fun and laugh a little bit, look up any meme involving the
God.
Night King on the internet,
And it's great.
and it just makes you, especially after an episode like that of Game of Thrones, it just
Yep.
makes you love the internet.
And my number 1's Jon Snow. So
All right, there it is.
It's-
6
I mean,
weeks in a
it's
row.
Yeah, it's it.
Let's see where we land at the end of the show or at the end of this
Yeah.
season, and see if John's still at number 1, which I'm sure he will be for you.
Yeah.
But
There's no
the only
way.
reason I put the Night King at number 1 is just because,
Well, I mean,
that
he was my
cannon
number
for an
2,
arm.
so
yeah, exactly. It's just that cannon for an arm and that badass spear. So there you have it, everybody. There are power rankings, there are initial reactions, and some Patreon supporter reactions as well. You want to catch our last and final Game of Thrones reaction video. It'll be next Tuesday on noon Eastern time here on youtube.com/TJENT. And then we will move on to one of our new shows that we're going to be pushing out some new content, but you'll get that later in the week and you'll find out what exactly we're thinking to take the channel in new directions,
yes.
in new horizons. Hoping it's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for joining, everybody. We'll see you not crying as
Yeah.
always, because
Cheers
it
to
could,
a horrible finale, but hey, who knows?
I think everybody will be on the good side. I can hope, but it's not going to happen, and I'm
Yeah.
just going to go into it with complete denial.
Yep.
So there you go. Thanks for joining, everybody. We'll see you after the finale, hopefully.
All right. See you guys.
Peace.